the chain of custody. So what is the chain of custody? Well, that's a tracking document beginning with the detailed scene notes, the document where the evidence was received from or collected, and it goes further every step of the way, documenting who had the evidence, where the evidence was, where it was transported to, and so forth. So typically, you start out by saying, I have the evidence, I'm collecting it, and then what happens next? It's going to the police station, and it's going in locker number 1, evidence locker number 1. Then the people in the evidence room take it out of the locker and they say, I removed it and I put it on the shelf. Then the detective comes and says, I need that item of evidence to take it to the crime lab. So they document that the detective picked it up, the property room released it, and then at the crime lab starts the chain of custody. And then when it's returned, that's indicated. When it goes back to the property room, and then when it goes to court, and so forth. Every time that item of evidence is handled or changes location, it has to be documented very thoroughly. Because if there is a gap somewhere, then it leaves an opportunity for the defense to say the evidence was unaccounted for, it could have been tampered with. And a lot of times what the defense wants is just for one juror to go, gee, that's, that could have happened. I saw a TV program where that happened once. I got a reasonable doubt now. And then they have a hung jury. So we have to make sure we're bulletproof on all of this with chain of custody. It documents the recovery location, the time and date recovered or received, description of the item, inventory list, documentation. Now, what many agencies are doing now, I would say most, is they barcode their evidence. So there's 2 ways to do this. One is to barcode at the scene. So you actually have a roll of barcode stickers. You collect an item and you put the sticker on the package. And then you also enter some information, maybe on a laptop, or you do it when you get back to the station, or maybe you just fill it in on the outside of the bag. The other way is you collect the item, you fill out the paperwork, the bag, you give it to the property room or put it in the locker. When they receive it, they barcode it. So the chain of custody starts at the beginning and goes all the way until it's destroyed or released. Now, as far as chain of custody, again, you have to account for everything. Sometimes you cannot, or it's not best or convenient to collect the item and put it in the evidence locker at the property room or turn it over to the property room. You might need to hold it for a while to dust it for prints or to try to get DNA or to photograph it. And you may also need to go to another crime scene before you can do that. So what do you do with your evidence? Well, most agencies will have some temporary lockers. This is at the Long Beach Police Department, and they have these little cages with padlocks, and the ones that are unoccupied, they actually have the key in them. So if you go to a crime scene, you got all this evidence, but you're not ready to put it into property yet, you're back at the station, you can put it into one of these cages, lock it, and you hang on to the key. That's considered keeping custody of the item because it's locked up. Then you come back, unlock it, take it out, photograph it, dust it, then you turn it over to the property room. Also, you may have those lockers I've been alluding to. This is at the Riverside Police Department, and these are lockers in the wall. So, and you have your evidence. You can go to one of these lockers, you don't want it anymore, you want it to go to property. You open one of these lockers that's empty, and only the empty ones can be opened. You put your evidence in there, you slam the door, it locks on the inside, and now you can't open it from the outside. Later, on the other side of this wall is the property room, and they have either individual doors for each of these lockers or a roll-up that covers all of them. They open up the locker, and take your evidence and continue the chain of custody. And you see there are different sizes. So if you have a rifle, you can put it in this long one. You've got just small things. You can just drop it into this one and not use a whole locker for one little item. And then down here on the far right, that's actually a refrigerator that has compartments in it with doors that lock. So if you have something that needs to stay refrigerated that you've collected, you can put it in there, close the door, and then they collect it from the other side. And there's a freezer portion as well. Once it's inside the property room, again, they will probably barcode it if it hasn't already been, and then it goes into storage. And here we have somebody barcoding the item of evidence. So that's chain of custody. It is very important. I have seen cases where that has come up. It can even cause the evidence to be suppressed. Now, there's this suppression hearing opportunity that the defense can ask for. And that's when they say, we don't believe this evidence that the prosecution is going to use was collected properly, or chain of custody is compromised. So they present that in this hearing before trial, and then the judge will make a determination. If the judge says, you know, you're right, that was collected improperly, maybe they should have had a search warrant and they didn't, or the chain of custody was compromised, the judge will say that evidence is out of there. And so we need to be really careful with this.